All right. Welcome back to the Bold and Determined podcast with your man, Victor Pride. And we are now 1 week into our 30-day challenge, and I feel great, boy. I tell you what, for about the first 6 days, I was tired and hungry. As you might know, I'm eating 1 meal a day and not 2. All of the friends and the followers following the 30 days of discipline should be eating 2 meals a day, but I'm going a bit further and I'm doing 1 meal a day. And boy, every day, I tell you what, I was tired and hungry. No joke, no question about it. Tired and hungry. And it wasn't until I got my sleep in order and got enough sleep that I started to feel not just good, but great. Because sleep is the key to discipline. When you have the proper sleep, when you have the good sleep, then you can make all the good decisions during the day, and it makes everything easier. So I've been having to go to bed at 8 p.m. to get my good sleep. But you gotta do what you gotta do. And today, I'll tell you what, I feel great. Regarding 1 meal a day, I am hungry every day until 5 p.m. when I eat my meal, and then I'm satisfied. But this challenge for me has become a spiritual quest. It is no longer a matter of discipline. It is a matter of spirituality, a quest to find what was lost, you could say. And so this eating 1 meal a day, much like what the Muslims do during Ramadan, has become my spiritual challenge. So that's that. What do you say we get the show started? Welcome to the Bold and Determined podcast with your man Victor Pride. And right here on the podcast for winners, we're bringing you motivation and mindset for the killers and real dealers, the makers and the takers, the winners and the grinners, and goddamn, even the sinners too. Let's get started. Well, my friends, at the end of the latest podcast, Benjamin asked, Vic, what drives individuals to unspeakable acts of cruelty? And this was a very interesting question I found, because I do spend a lot of time pondering this exact same question when I want to know, why is our world the way that it is? Why are these things happening in our world? And when you start looking deeply into this, you don't really believe that it's natural. You don't believe that these things just happen naturally. You believe that there's a driving force behind the things that happen in the world, because there has to be. These things don't happen by synchronicity. They happen because they were planned to happen. So that leads you to the only possible conclusion, that the people who plan this enjoy unspeakable acts of cruelty upon the population. So then we're left to ask the question, why? Why are they like this? Because as human beings, we think of all people as ourselves. We think that we project ourselves onto all people. And most people are good people. Regardless of what you've heard, most people in the world are good people. Good, moral people. And they can't fathom that some people are not good and not moral people. And that some people are simply born bad, as it were. And this makes it very difficult for the average Joe or average Joanne to understand when you try to enlighten them on the events of the world through the eyes of something they can't fathom. And what I mean by that is there is a clique of people who make the decisions in the world, and they are driven by such hostility and anger and hatred for people that we simply don't comprehend it. We can't comprehend it because most of us are good people, and most of us don't want to do harm to other people. And because we don't want to do harm to other people, we also assume that our politicians and our leaders also feel the same way. But that's not really the case. There are people born bad who can never cause enough anguish or enough pain or enough trauma in this world to ever be satisfied. And these same people, they raise their children in the same manner so that it's a continual cycle of hostility towards normal people. And most of these people are born bad. They're born with psychopathic traits. And if they're not born bad, you can bet your bottom dollar that they are made bad by the parents and by the adults. So there is a clique of people in this world who have a vast and undying hatred for the rest of us. Just a small percentage of the population. But they hate most of us to such a degree that they feel that they must have control over us. And they do. They feel that they must enslave us. And they do. And they feel that they must eventually purge the world of us. And seems to be what they're after. So I hate to be a real Debbie Downer, but we have to understand that in the world, not everybody is like us. Even though 90% of the people in the world are good, maybe 95% of the people in the world are good, the 5% who are driven to unspeakable acts of cruelty are not. And they don't think the way that we think. And they laugh at us, and they think that we're stupid, and then we think that we're naive. And all of those are true. We are stupid and we are naive because we're not opening our eyes to reality and seeing what's going on. And when we do open our eyes to reality and see what is going on, we see that these unspeakable acts of cruelty against us are premeditated. Nothing in this world is happening by accident. It is premeditated by a clan of people who are cruel. And it's really as simple as that. And there are some other reasons that people become cruel, such as police officers and jailers, is that when people believe in authority, they will do that anything authority tells them to do. There was a university study many years ago where they took some participants in the group, made half of them jailers and half of them prisoners. And this was just a study, a pretend study, but what they found shocked them. They found that in this study, the jailers quickly became sadistic and the jailed quickly became very, very frightened, like little frightened turtles or mice. And they had to, this was a week-long study. It was becoming so psychologically damaging for the prisoners of the study, who were just fake prisoners. They were pretend prisoners. It was becoming so psychologically damaging because the jailers, who were also just other students and volunteers in the study, were so sadistic and cruel to them that they had to end this study early. So when people have a belief in authority, they will do what authority says. And when authority says, be cruel, or gives them the green light to be cruel, they will. They will stop being the nice people they once were. And they will become sadistic. If you've ever spoken to anybody who has done prison time, they will tell you that the other prisoners are not the problem. It's the guards who are the most sadistic. The ones in power are the most sadistic and cruel because absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. When you have absolute power over somebody, you become sadistic. And this is one reason why the people in charge of the world, who are just a very small clique of people, are so cruel and sadistic. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. And then you have random people who become murderers and serial killers and rapists. And again, these people were either born this way or they were made this way through violence in their childhood. A psychopath was born that way. A sociopath was made that way. That's the only difference between a psychopath and a sociopath. Psychopath born that way. Sociopath made that way, usually through torture and violence and sadistic acts of torture in their childhood. And these people grow up with a deep and unending hatred for the world, and they want to see everybody in the world suffer. These are the 3 reasons people are driven to unspeakable acts of cruelty. It is a cycle of abuse in childhood, they are born that way, or it is in their genetic makeup, which is enhanced by their lifestyle and what they are taught. Because there are people in this world who are not taught that everybody's equal and everybody's the same and everybody's good. There are people in this world who are taught that everybody who is not like you is beneath you, is an animal, who are there to be your slaves and your servants, and who are there to be the target of your cruelty. So we have to be aware of this. And that's that for cruelty. Jack T asks, I wondered what you thought of Ayn Rand, and if you've ever read Atlas Shrugged or The Fountainhead. Your articles about the rewards of working hard for yourself, living for yourself, and not sacrificing yourself by working for a boss, and your emphasis on pride seem like they wouldn't be out of place coming from one of Rand's heroes. I've never read Ayn Rand's books, but I have read the summary of Atlas Shrugged. And from what I understand, let me just read it from Wikipedia. Atlas Shrugged depicts a dystopian United States in which private businesses suffer under increasingly burdensome laws and regulations. And what is happening is that many of the great minds, the great entrepreneurs in Atlas Shrugged are simply disappearing. They're leaving their businesses and they're disappearing. They're going away. And what they're doing is called going Galt. When the governments are pushing these excessive taxes and trying to take over their businesses and telling them the way that they have to run their businesses. And remember, these are the productive members of society. These are the leaders, the entrepreneurs, and they're being told what to do by these people who don't have the best interests of the society at heart. They have only the interests of themselves. So what I understand is that the governments in Atlas Shrugged are trying to help their own monopoly or trying to gain a monopoly themselves. And so putting all these excessive rules and taxes on these businesses and forcing these businessmen to go away. And one of these businessmen is called John Galt. When the government tells these people what to do, they say, "Who is John Galt?" or something like this. I haven't read the book. But what it means is, why bother? Why do these things that don't make any sense for us but only make sense for you? And so there is a very clear parallel between Atlas Shrugged and Bold and Determined, because I tell you specifically, you should not work for these people who don't have your best interest at heart. In fact, the more you work for them, the more you give away your interests, and they take all the products of your labor and you keep none of it. And so this is not good for a people. This is not good for society. It's only good for a very few people at the top of the pyramid of power. It's never good for you. It's always good for them. And the more we listen to them, the worse we get. We listen to them about matters of health and we get sicker and sicker. We listen to them about matters of wealth and our wealth gets taken away. So this begs the question, why bother? Why do these things that help them and don't help us as a society? You might have noticed that we have been getting poorer as a society, not richer. We have been listening to them and giving more power to them, and we have been getting poorer. So I personally have gone Galt, and I did it before I knew what going Galt even meant. But I went Galt many years ago because I don't agree with the way that this society is being run. And what is going Galt? This is what going Galt is. Going Galt doesn't simply mean getting angry. That would be going postal. It means having righteous indignation at the injustice of a political system that bails out individuals and institutions for irresponsible behavior and at the expense of those like you who prosper through hard work and personal responsibility. So rather than rewarding people for hard work and personal responsibility, it rewards the greedy and the inept for their irresponsible behavior, and it takes money from you to give to them. Does that sound familiar? Going Galt means asking in the face of new taxes and government controls, why work at all? For whom am I working? Am I a slave? Going Galt means recognizing that you are being punished not for your vices, but for your virtues. Going Galt means recognizing that you have a moral right to your own life, the pursuit of your own business, and thus to the rewards you've earned with your labor. Going Galt means recognizing that you deserve praise and honor for your achievements rather than damnation as exploiters. Going Galt means recognizing that you do not need to justify your life or your wealth to your neighbors, society, politicians, or bureaucrats. Your wealth is yours, period. Going Galt means recognizing that the needs of others do not give them a claim to your time, effort, and achievements. Going Galt means shrugging off unearned guilt, refusing to support your own destroyers, refusing to give them what Ayn Rand termed the sanction of the victim. It means taking the moral high ground by explicitly rejecting as evil the premise of self-sacrifice that they sell to you as a virtue, when in fact self-sacrifice is an invitation to suicide. Sound familiar? Now, I don't personally feel unearned guilt. I don't believe in white guilt or male guilt. I refuse to support my own destroyers. I refuse to give them the sanction of the victim. I explicitly reject the premise of self-sacrifice, which is not a virtue. It is suicide. And as we see, friends, the Western world is committing suicide with the helping hand of the lazy and entitled people at the top of the pyramid of power. They're helping us to commit suicide, but we are the ones committing suicide. simply by listening to them. And if we stopped listening to them and listened to ourselves, we would understand that we have to stop acting in this manner. We have to stop giving in to our destroyers. Little by little, we are being destroyed and we are being led to suicide. And this is in fact happening. Our birth rates are down and they are continuing to go down. And our women even kill their own babies via abortion. We are on a path to suicide and we must get off of this path. To get off of this path, we have to stop listening to the social justice warriors, to the governments who tell us what to do. We have to stop blaming ourselves for being successful. And that's what we're doing. We are the successful ones. They blame us as oppressors. Well, it's in fact not true. There are oppressors in this world, but we are not them. The oppressors are the hidden hand that we cannot see. And it's very few of them. To be an oppressor, you have to have unlimited power, absolute power. And us regular people just doing our hardest to make a good, honest living and make a nice income are not the oppressors. And we don't have to feel guilt for this because we are not guilty. Though they want to make us feel guilty, we simply can choose to not listen. And this is how we fight back. We don't have to fight back with guns and with knives. This is a mental war that we are fighting and losing. To win this mental war, we just have to change our minds. Chris asks, first, I would like to know, you mentioned masturbation is suboptimal and yet finding a long-term girlfriend is a challenge in the West. What do you personally do when you are not in Asia? Do you play the field in America or Europe, or do you basically stay celibate when you are away from her due to morals, degeneracy, chance of STD, or dealing with a false rape claim that can ruin your life? When I am in America, friends, I am in monk mode. And this is why I get so much work done when I spend these 6-month periods in the United States. I don't have anything to do with American females for a number of reasons, not least of which is that they don't act feminine anymore. And I'm attracted to femininity. I'm not attracted to masculinity. And our females have been led to believe that masculine traits are the best way to be and feminine traits are weak. This is of course not true, but it is a divide and conquer tactic that has been in play in our media and in our school system for a very long time, and females are the easiest to brainwash and to manipulate. And this is what has happened, and it has caused a very big divide between men and women in the United States because, well, women simply don't act like women. And as much as we try and pacify them, they're simply not happy because they are being led via this propaganda system, the school system, the university system, the television news, the internet news, to never be happy with what they get. And this causes them to have an unfortunately high self-esteem, which is unearned, and a very high ego. Of course, very high rates of mental illness because they're not being true to who they are. A female must act like a female if she wants to be happy and satisfied in this world. And a female who doesn't act like a female will never be happy and satisfied in this world. She will always be on mental health drugs. She will always have this anger and anxiety. You will always have it until you embrace who you are, which is why it's so important to embrace who you are, to become who you are. If you are a man, you must be a man. If you are a woman, you must be a woman. Never the twain shall meet. But because of this, I go into monk mode. And when I'm in America, I work like the devil. And then I get out. And I get so much work done. I get so much work done in America that it can last me for a number of years because I'm able to get so much done and so much income producing for myself through these 6-month periods of complete celibacy and complete chastity, monk mode, that it fuels me for years and years. Now you can make the way that you make money online is that you don't get paid for what you do today. Whatever you do today, you might get paid for next year. I found that the harder you work now, the more you're going to get paid next year for it. So it's always on a 1-year loop. So if you work super duper hard right now for the next 6 months, you're going to really reap the rewards of it in a year from now. So I like to take these periods where I have no interest and no focus on girls. And it's very easy to go monk mode in America because I'm completely uninterested in the females. Now, I would love for these females to embrace normality and come back home, but it isn't happening, so I simply don't have anything to do with them. And because I don't have anything to do with them, Obviously, there's no chance of false rape or things of this nature. So that's me. I don't recommend that all men in America abandon all women, but you do have to search long and hard for a snowflake. They are out there, but goddamn if they're not hard to find here. And when you go to other countries, it's going to ruin you for American women. When you go date in other countries, you're never going to want another American female again, basically for as long as you live. Because after you've had an actual female, then these male females we have in America simply don't cut it. And that's very unfortunate for us as a society as a whole. Because men and women belong together. They don't belong separate. We are each halves of a singular whole. Of course, we are all divided today. We're all lost today. We are all not listening to nature today. It's a very big problem that we have. But these things come from the top. This propaganda that tells women to not be happy, that tells women that men are their oppressors, comes directly from the top, from the people who like to commit unspeakable acts of cruelty against us. And what we have to do, again, is simply change our minds, because this is a mental war. This is not a war fought with guns and machine guns and army tanks and battleships. It's a war of the minds. And to win this war, you just change our minds. His second question is, how can a young man insulate himself from allegations of false rape or false allegations of things like sexual harassment at work? It seems dangerous to even interact with females these days, and one mistake could cost you your career or get you a felony record or ruin your life, social standing, etc. This is very true, my young friendly friends. This is very true. And it was not even this way 10 or 20 years ago. This is a very new phenomenon that is happening in the West. And our women in the United States, many of them have gone absolutely insane. It's not that their ego is sky high. It's that they've gone absolutely insane. And they have become like the oppressor who commits unspeakable acts of cruelty against us. Women are now modeled after these people. Their behavior is modeled after these people. And so they are trying to ruin us with these cruel accusations of false rape and these type of things. So the best thing you could do is to, number one, not be a raging pussy. And what I mean by that is most men who are engaged of false rape are raging pussies, raging nice guys. Because somebody like myself, even though I don't have anything to do with American women now, I used to in the past. I never had any accusations of false rape. No females ever tried to lie to me and tell me they were pregnant. I never had any of these problems that most of these nice guys have with females. And that's because I've never been a nice guy myself. I've always been a jerk to females, and they've always appreciated it. They've always appreciated my honesty, even if they don't say it. They never punished me for being a jerk by giving me false rape accusations or things of this nature. Now, I've always known from a very young age that it's a bad idea to get married. And I've always been very vocal about not getting married to every female I've been involved with. When you marry a female, that's when she's got you. That's when she's got you. But until then, she must be nice. She must be sweet, because her end goal is to get you to marry her and then, pay for her life and be her little slave. That's the end goal of every female, is to hook you into marriage, to trap you in her net, and then she can change. Then she can start being different than she was when you were dating. I've always said I'm not getting married, and that's it. They've always treated me very, very well. Women have always treated me like a king, because they have to entrap you. They have to make you believe that they're something that they perhaps are not, until you marry them, and then the truth comes out. So for me, being a jerk has always paid off very well. Being a jerk has always rewarded me. And that's what I would suggest to you, is to stop being a nice guy and be a jerk. Make her pay half of her dinner. Every time. Literally every time, make her pay half. If you live with her, make her pay half of the rent. My first girlfriend that I lived with, we broke up, and we still have 4 months left on our lease. We broke up. She moved out and continued paying me her half of the rent. So this is how it pays to be a jerk. When you're a nice guy, they will keep taking and taking and taking everything from you. When you're a jerk, they will start to give things to you. They will start giving themselves. So you must not be a nice guy at all. You must be a jerk. Wolf asks, "Hey Vic, do you think that serving in the military is still an honorable act or wasted time? What bothers me is the fact that men don't defend their country anymore, especially when they don't love their heritage. The government sends them to Afghanistan or Iraq instead of their own borders. Well, no, the serving in the military is not an honorable act. And if you look through our history, it really never was an honorable act. Because when you serve in the military, you're serving the people who commit unspeakable acts of cruelty against you. You serve to make them richer and make them more powerful. You never serve for your own country. You never help your own country. In very rare circumstances do you actually serve to help your own country. And I'm going to use the United States as an example. The United States has never served for their own country since we fought the Revolutionary War against England. That's when we actually fought for ourselves. In this modern era, we don't fight for our own country. We fight for international bankers and international powers that use us like pawns in chess. Do you know what Henry Kissinger said about military men? He said, military men are dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns for foreign policy. So if you serve the military today, you are a fool who serves the international bankers instead of your own country. When our men served in Vietnam, what possible threat could Vietnam have to the United States? There is none. That would be like a rhinoceros fighting with a beetle. A beetle can't hurt the rhinoceros. It can't happen. So when our men are sent to Vietnam, and they weren't sent to win this war, they were sent to prolong it, so that some of the powers that be could continue taking heroin out of Myanmar and the Golden Triangle area and get richer and richer and richer, and do other things to get richer and richer at the expense of some of our best men. A civil war in Vietnam, how could that be for your own country of the United States? It cannot be. Doesn't matter who wins the civil war in Vietnam. It does not affect the United States. And I'll give you absolute proof. The civil war in Vietnam was a war fought between the North and the South. The North was trying to communize the country and the South was fighting against that. We were supposedly fighting on the side of the South for freedom. Well, guess what? We lost. The North Vietnamese won and the country became communist. And what changed for America? Did the Vietnamese invade America? No, nothing changed. So we do not fight for our own country. We fight for foreign powers that we cannot see and don't understand. They use our own patriotism and love for our country against us. They use our own charity and goodwill and desire to fight for our own country against us. The rich and the intelligent never send their sons to die in a war for anybody. But the poor Americans willingly send their sons to fight and die in foreign wars that don't have any benefit to us here in America. So joining the military is not an honorable act, it is a dishonorable act. Even though you believe it's honorable, even though you believe you're being a patriot, the reality is much different. You're being used like a pawn in chess to be used for foreign goals and foreign aims, and to kill off some of our young and good men. So it is not an honorable act to join the military. It is dishonorable because you don't fight for your country. The things you do in war often hurt your country. They don't help our country in the least bit. So that's that. Killian Igor Murphy asks, Hi, Uncle Vic. I'm 5'7", 25 years old, and I look like I am 18 years old. My question is, what can I do to look older? Well, you could start drinking a lot of alcohol. You could start smoking cigarettes. You could start using narcotics. You could start eating a lot of sugary junk food. And that's going to help you to look a lot older. Otherwise, simply don't worry about it and look the way you look and let nature take its course. Joseph asks, how can you improve and heal your vision naturally? I deal with regular blurriness, loads of floaters, visual snow, and flashes flickering in my vision. Any advice? Yeah, I've got 2 pieces of advice for you. Number 1, get off the computer, get off the smartphone. Limit your time on the computer and the smartphone because these things are killing our eyes. They are damaging our eyes almost beyond belief, and we're simply not putting 2 and 2 together. Why are my eyes so bad when I'm staring at this phone for 18 hours a day? Well, gee, I wonder. Stop looking at the phone in particular because the small phone is the worst thing for your eyes. The second worst thing for your eyes is your computer. Another thing that can really help your eyes is sun gazing. This is what our ancestors did to have strong eyes. They would go out at dawn and dusk and they would look at the sun. And I know we're told, don't look at the sun, don't look at the sun. But we have to understand that everything we're told is usually the opposite of what's good and true for us. So we're told to eat margarine instead of butter, for example. When we know that butter is much better for us and margarine actually causes heart attacks. Margarine is something that's made in a factory. Butter is something that's made naturally. You can make, if you have a cow, you can make butter in your backyard. You can't make margarine in your backyard. It has to be made in a factory. So many of the things we are told are the opposite of what is actually healthy for us. And many people actually heal their eyes via sun gazing, looking at the sun in the hours of dusk and dawn. And the sun is a great energy source for us, and we're not getting enough sun. We're told stay out of the sun, which is simply absurd. In our natural environment, we would be in the sun all the time, and we would only have shade under the trees. So we are meant to be in the sun. We are meant to be a part of nature. When we hide ourselves away from nature, inside houses, away from the sun, staring at phones and computers, we become decrepit. And to heal ourselves, we have to become more natural. So I will link to you a couple of videos that you can watch about sun gazing that will show you the benefits from people who actually healed their eyes, who had bad vision problems, and healed their eyes via sun gazing. Carl asks, hello, Pride. You have said that the religion of Islam have respect for men and the masculinity attitude. Can you explain that more? Yeah, this is something I said in the past, and I take it back, because the religion of Islam, I don't believe has the respect for men and the masculinity attitude, because it demands subservience. Islam literally means submission, and the masculine attitude refuses to submit. So no, I don't believe that the religion of Islam respects men and the masculine attitude. It treats them like subservient, slaves, cattle. If you are forced to submit to another man's will, if you weren't part of the writing of the Quran, it is another man's will, whether you believe it's God's will or not. The literal book was literally written by a man, not a God. God didn't come down from the sky and take out a pen and paper and write the book. It was literally written by a man. Whether you believe that man was divinely inspired, that's another story. But it was literally written by a man. And if you follow this book, you submit to another man. That does not make you a man. That makes you a little weakling, like a little girl, following the lead of another man, submitting to another man. Could you imagine following a religion called submission and calling yourself a man? Could you imagine? I can't. Alex asks, Victor, what is your ethnicity? Well, friend, ethnicity is the fact or state of belonging to a social group that has a common national or cultural tradition. And ethnicity is just a category of people who identify with each other based on similarities such as common ancestry, language, history, society, culture, or nation. And my ethnicity is, of course, American. Of course, our culture, our society, our history is being ripped apart. So many of us feel we don't actually have a culture. We don't actually have an ethnicity anymore. Because if they say, well, anybody can be a part of your ethnicity, anybody can be an American, which is not true, of course. To be an American, you must actually be an American. You can't simply move here and become that. You can't move to Thailand and become Thai. You can't move to China and become Chinese. You can't move to Russia and become Russian. And in the same manner, you cannot move to the United States and become American. You are what you are. And what you are is a product of your ethnicity, of course, your upbringing, but it's also a product of your race. So a race is a better question to ask. What is your race? When you're asking an American, you have to ask, what is your race? And in our world, in this darkest time, we pretend that race no longer exists. And it's a very touchy subject. So I really don't want to offend anybody by saying what my race is. So I'm going to use the least offensive word I could possibly come up with to tell you what my race is. And that is Aryan. So I hope you don't take offense to that, my friend, but I'm an Aryan. And I hope you don't take offense to this, but I take great pride in that as well. And you know, the fun thing about the Aryan race is that it's not a matter of only white people. It's not only white people who can be Aryan, because there are Aryans in India, Iran, Chile, Argentina. There are Aryans all over the world, actually. And it's not a matter of skin color so much. Of course, Aryans are light colored. You're never going to find a dark Aryan. But it doesn't mean only white European. It is a race that transcends color. Of course, you have more Aryan in the white race than anywhere else. But you have them amongst all of the great cultures of the world. You will find Aryan. So there's a fun bit of trivia for you. Also, I mentioned we are in the darkest time of the earth. We are still in the dark ages, actually. We have never left the dark ages. We're in the era of the Kali Yuga. And the Kali Yuga is the last of the 4 stages that the world goes through as part of the cycle of yugas. This is a cycle that continues infinitely, forever. And this is the nighttime of the cycle, the Kali Yuga. Yeah, friend, we are in the darkest time of the earth, but we can look forward to the light coming soon because it's always darkest just before the dawn. Narenta asks, hey Vic, what do you eat at night? Is eating steak the best investment in your life? Well, I eat steak at night, friend. Thank you for asking. I eat steak. Sometimes I eat pork. Sometimes I eat bacon. Sometimes I eat pork ribs. Sometimes I eat lamb or goats. I do eat a lot of grass-fed beef liver and heart and kidney. But mostly I just eat steak. Is it the best investment in my life? I would say, yeah, because health is wealth. And if you invest in your health, you become wealthy. And if you ask sick people, sick rich people, what would they rather have, health or wealth? I'm always going to tell you health. So health is your best investment by far because health is wealth. And if you want to be healthy, it's a matter of eating the right food. Of course, they tell us to eat this other food, but look around, friends. They're telling us what to eat. We're listening and we're sicker than ever. That would make a thinking man think twice about eating what they tell you to eat. So if they say meat is bad, fatty meat is bad, that means eat all the fatty meat you possibly can. Opie asks, hi Uncle Vic, I noticed you promoted Shadow Men by Anthony Napoleon. This book is a solid overview of many topics, but I would like you to know that the author is a subversive who, if you follow him on his Twitter handle @NapoleonLegal, is promoting a full vegan diet to his gullible followers. Would you still recommend the Shadow Men book? And more importantly, do you believe that the present state of our degenerate world is the karmic effect of our slaughterhouses where animals are brutally killed, which is what Napoleon claims? Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Number one, yeah, I still recommend the book Shadow Men because it is a solid overview of what's happening in the world. It doesn't say everything. It covers about 25% or less, but it's a very good guide to understanding our world. Regarding the author going full vegan because he believes slaughterhouses produce a karmic effect, which is helping to degenerate our world. Okay, there's 2 different things here. Number one, when you go vegan, you go mentally insane because you're robbing your brain of nutrients. So you go wacky. So I looked at his Twitter, which is @NapoleonLegal, and he's definitely wacky. He's lost it because, like I said, vegans do not get nutrients. They're basically starving themselves to death. They're on a hunger strike, actually. The ones who are doing it for the animals are on a hunger strike. They just don't understand it. They just don't know it. So they're starving themselves to death. And in the process, they're going wacky in the brain because they're not getting the vital nutrients and the essential fatty acids. So all vegans are wacky, and I will link a video that is entitled Vegans, the Epitome of Malnourishment 3 that you must watch if you want to understand the mind of a vegan. It is a deprived mind, deprived of the essential ingredients it needs to be healthy. So that's why all vegans are wacky. But vegans are half right. They are half right. They're wrong that we don't need animal products to live. They're wrong in that sense. We must have animal products to live and be healthy. They are right in the sense that the slaughterhouses where animals are brutally killed and brutally tortured before they are killed is very bad karmically for us. This is true. Animals in slaughterhouses live a life of torture. It is almost as if they are ritually murdered at the height of their torture, and this makes the meat fully adrenalized. And then we eat this meat. So we're eating the tortured meat of these tortured animals. So they are right in that sense that factory farming and these slaughterhouses do serve to degenerate us. We are eating this tortured meat. If you believe in God and the devil, this is satanically tortured meat. They are literally torturing these animals, and then we're eating them at the height of their torture. So we are ingesting this, and this is having a karmic effect on us. This is why it is so important to buy your meat from a local rancher or from a local farmer and never from the local supermarket. We must eat animals that were healthy and happy in their life and killed with as little violence as humanly possible. It's so important to our health, not just our physical health, but our mental health, to buy grass-fed meat from local ranchers instead of buying meat from the local supermarket, because all the meat we do buy from the local supermarket is serving to help degenerate this world. We buy it because it's cheaper, not understanding the karmic effect that it is having on us. These animals are tortured, and this resulting adrenaline and other nasty chemicals, they are released into the animal and they're dangerous to eat. It is so important to only purchase local meat from the animals that were treated peacefully and slaughtered quickly and mercifully, because divine law does not take kindly to sentient beings, animals, which are killed in a torturous manner. So this is very bad for our karma. The vegans are right on that, in that regard. In the regard that they want to get rid of factory farming and torturous slaughterhouses, they are absolutely correct. The problem with them is that they feel we have outgrown the need or evolved from the need from eating meat. Because we can make all this other food in factories, they think, oh, well, we can just eat that and leave the animals alone. They have the right idea in spirit. In their actions, it's wrong, because we do have to have the meat products. This is what our natural food is the meat. We are hunters. We are not gatherers. We're hunters. This is what we are. This is what people are. We cannot live in these fake foods created in factories. We cannot live on vegetables and fruits and rice. And watch the video, Vegans, the Epitome of Malnourishment 3, to see crazy vegans, to see what happens when vegans don't eat their natural diet. Sebas asks, hello, Vic. You almost don't talk about the carnivore diet nowadays. I'm so interested in it, but I'm also concerned for a few things. I want to know deeper before I try it. Is it a lifelong diet or a seasonal diet? People have told us that if we overconsume meat, it leads to cancer and heart diseases. Is there an impact or side effects on the long term with this diet? What do you think about the China study? Is it true or is it propaganda? Okay. The diet is a lifelong diet. It's not a seasonal diet. We can eat a few plants naturally. We can eat something like berries or wild leaves naturally, but we are not meant to eat plants all year long because they don't grow all year long. So in that regard, we can eat some seasonal plants, but meat is the base of the diet all year long, always and forever. We cannot get our vitamins from vegetables. We just can't. It's simply not possible for us. Most of our vitamins that we need are fat soluble, and they exist in the meat of the animals and the organs of the animals. And we cannot digest them without eating the fat of the animals. We have to have saturated animal fat. This is our most important nutrient, is the saturated fat from animal. This saturated fat does not cause cancer or heart disease. It prevents it. It has other products that give us cancer and heart disease. It is not the meat. It is not the grass-fed meat. It is mostly these fake foods like vegetable oils, like sugar. These things that we would never be able to eat in nature is what is giving us these problems. Because in nature, we don't have cancer and heart disease because we're eating just the natural food. We're eating only the berries that we can pick and a few leaves that we can pick. And mostly we're surviving on the meat that we hunt. Now, we're eating all kinds of foods that are created in factories. And we wonder why we're so sick. It's plainly obvious. We're eating foods we're not meant to eat. Nature made perfect food for us. Man makes sick food for us. If we eat the food that man makes, we will get sick. If we eat the food that nature gave us, we will be well. It is this simple. What do I think about the China study? Is it true or is it propaganda? It is propaganda. Vegans always lie. We have to understand that vegans and vegetarians always lie. They will ignore, if they have 100 pieces of evidence, they will ignore 99 pieces and use one to show you that veganism is the right way. Vegans always lie. They always do. Vegetarians always lie because they do feel for the animals and they want to help save the animals. So they lie about it. Unfortunately, when they try to save the animals, you sacrifice human health for it. So vegans always lie. The China study is a lie. And all you have to do is Google China study debunked and you will find absolute proof that it is false. Steven asks, hello Vic, what do you think of green veggies and antioxidant powder? Well, it's a great way to get kidney stones, but in regarding health, it's very poor. We don't need green veggies, and we certainly don't need antioxidant powder. And if you take too much antioxidant powder, you're going to develop kidney stones because our kidneys cannot process this fake food. It's not food for us. We're not meant to eat it. When we eat too much, we become unwell. So that's my advice right there. I don't eat any veggies whatsoever. And I certainly would never take antioxidant powder. Galt Haddad asks, hey Vic, I totally appreciate your work and resonate with it 99.9%. I tried the carnivore diet but got severe constipation. It only works for me when I combine my steak and eggs with leafy greens or other vegetables. You once mentioned that veggies are not digestible. Fibers in vegetables are not supposed to be digested. Did you know that? In fact, their main purpose is to support the gut's bacteria by feeding them with the nutrition they need in the form of fiber. So my question to you is, do you really believe our ancestors ate only meat? Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Number one, fiber is indigestible, and that's why you should not eat it. It's beyond silly to eat food that you cannot digest. Now, he said that fiber feeds the gut by bacteria by feeding it the nutrition that it needs. No, it doesn't. If you can't digest it, it doesn't do anything for you except give you constipation. So we've all been told that fiber is a cure for constipation. Well, friends, here's the reality. Fiber causes constipation. The more fiber you eat, the more you're going to feel like you have to shit all the time, but you're never going to be fully relieved. So vegans shit 5, 6, 7 times a day, every day, because they're eating so much fiber. And even regular people feel like they have to shit all the time. They never feel fully satisfied. Fiber makes your poo-poo bigger, makes it harder to come out of your butthole. If we can be so blunt. Fiber makes your poo-poo bigger, makes it harder to come out of your butthole. And you always feel like you have to shit, but you can never feel fully satisfied. It is only when you completely eliminate fiber that you can shit good and have an empty stomach and feel fine. Before I was eating all meat, I always felt like I had to shit, just all the time. And it was I never had a good shit. I just never did until I got rid of fiber. And now I shit once in the morning, every morning. I feel awesome every day. I never have bloats. I never have stomach bloat. I never have stomach bloat. I never have constipation. I never feel like I have to shit at all. I just feel light and free every day. Now, in regards, do I feel like our ancestors ate only meat? Well, which ancestors are you talking about? We've had hundreds of thousands of years of human history. I'm talking about the very first. The very first people only ate meat absolutely. They only ate meat absolutely. And I'll give you some pieces of proof. Have you ever been hiking? Yes, you've been out in nature and you've been hiking. Did you ever see some wild tomatoes? Some wild bell peppers? Some wild romaine lettuce? Did you ever see any of the vegetables you see in the supermarket? Did you ever see them in the wild anywhere in your life? No, you didn't. Do you know why? Because all of the vegetables we eat are not natural foods. They're not natural to the earth. All of the vegetables we can find in the supermarket were genetically modified through many, many years to get what we have today. Wild fruits and wild vegetables look absolutely nothing like the fruits and vegetables we have in the supermarket. Wild fruits are basically inedible. Wild vegetables are basically inedible. They did not exist in the past. We made them through many generations of genetic modification, growing certain varieties over and over until we get giant pumpkins. Did you ever see a pumpkin out in nature? Did you ever go hiking and come across a watermelon? You never did, because they don't exist in nature. They can only be farmed. So when they tell us to eat vegetables and fruits, they're telling us eat these man-grown foods that only exist on farms, usually in the farms that Monsanto owns. So these foods are not natural for us, and there's absolute proof. You cannot find them in nature anywhere. The only fruit trees you find in nature now, you find them in people's yards because they were planted. Basically, the only fruits that exist in nature are seasonal berries. And if you think, well, I could still eat wild Wild plants? Well, then go out in nature and start eating wild plants and see what happens to you. Go see what happens to you. See if you live from eating wild plants. Every animal on this earth we can eat. Every plant on this earth we cannot eat. Go eat poison ivy and see how well that works out. You can eat any animal on this earth, but you cannot eat any plant. And to find out what plants we can't eat, many people died trying them and figuring out, okay, this one's poison, this one is okay. Now, plants can be used as medicine, which we found out through trial and error, but they are not food. Plants are medicine. They're not food. We cannot survive on them. And if we cannot survive on them, why would we eat them at all other than for medicinal purposes? You only eat plants when there's nothing else to eat and you're starving. That's the only reason to eat plants, is to pretend, is to fool your belly into thinking you actually ate something of substance. But as vegans will tell you, they are always hungry. They're always hungry because they're getting no nutrition whatsoever from the plants that they eat. If you think plants are healthy, then why are the people who eat nothing but plants the least healthy people on the face of the earth? So in fact, our ancestors did eat only meat. Our very long ago ancestors and our more recent ancestors who did eat plant foods and grains and such, they prepared them in such a way that they removed the toxicities from the food and made them less inflammatory. All of the plant foods we're eating today are inflammatory. They're very bad for us because we're not preparing them in the right way. Our ancestors knew more about preparing their foods, and they would either bury the foods, or they would ferment the foods, or they would do all kinds of things to make the foods less toxic. We're doing nothing like this today. We're just eating all these vegetables and fruits, and we're getting sicker and sicker. You can see clearly. All you have to do is open your eyes that they are telling us, eat vegetables, eat fruits, and we're doing it, and we're getting sicker and sicker and sicker. They're not telling us to eat more meat, to eat more butter. They're telling us to eat less saturated fat and more plants, and we're doing it, and we're getting sicker and sicker. Do your eyes work? Can you see? Do you have a brain that can process what your eyes see? If so, look at what's happening. We are eating the foods they tell us to eat, which are plants, vegetables, fruits, grains, and we're getting sicker and sicker. I'm telling you, in no uncertain terms, don't eat those anymore. Eat the grass-fed meat, and you will enjoy health. All of your health problems will go away when you stop eating the plants. If you have terrible acne, you probably eat tomatoes or tomato products like salsa or pizza sauce, or you're eating other nightshades like peppers. Stop eating it. Your acne will go away. Literally all the problems, all the health problems you have will go away if you eat only meat and nothing else. I don't mean the ribeyes from the local Walmart. I mean going out, finding a rancher, finding natural meat, and eating nothing but that. Do that, and you will be healthy. Don't do it, and you won't. Octavio asks, what is the difference between a drug and a supplement? The potency would be the difference between a drug and a supplement. A drug is much more potent than a supplement is. And that's going to be your main basic difference. And of course, another difference is the drug companies own a monopoly on all drugs, and supplements are somewhat free for the rest of us to provide. Now, I would prefer supplements over drugs because the more drugs you take, every drug you take, you end your life earlier. If you want to live a long life in this world, stay away from all drugs, all of them, even Tylenol. Supplements are different because there are things we cannot get from our foods today because our foods are not as nutrient dense as they were in the past. Our soils are not as nutrient dense as they were in the past. There are not enough minerals in our soil. So another reason why we can't get any nutrition from the plants we eat, there's no minerals in the soil. We keep tilling the soil over and over and over again, and this causes the way that we get minerals from soil is that plants decay, or animals decay, or animals shit in the soil, and this stuff decays and gives us minerals. But we keep using the same soil over and over and over again. There's no way for minerals to grow in the soil. So we're eating mineralless food when we eat these plants. And the animals are eating the same food because our soil is degenerated. We're getting less minerals. We're getting less nutrition than we actually need. So supplements in this regard can serve to help us. But of course, it's always better to eat natural food. But when we can't, we can supplement it and try to develop the best health we can given what we've got. Jordan asks, Hi Vic, do you keep a daily journal? I don't always, but find that recording important events helps me remember better from my blog and memory. I don't keep a daily journal. I have in the past, and I do at certain times, especially when I'm doing like a 30-day test or a 30-day challenge. So I am keeping a journal now about my one meal a day. When I want to remember things like this, if I'm doing a new challenge, I do always keep a daily journal so that I can remember it. But on a daily and yearly basis, I don't always keep a daily journal. But if I'm starting a new workout routine, a new diet, a new this, a new that, a new supplement, I do always keep a daily journal to help me remember. Lupe Bogey asks, I've been putting my wake up and bedtimes in a journal for a month now, and I can notice that I'm going to bed randomly and waking up when I feel like I've got enough sleep. I've noticed that it's never enough, and I function better on less sleep. But I just don't have the willpower to rise in the morning. I feel too tired no matter what. Partly it's the old mattress, but to a bigger extent, I believe that it is that I'm chronically sleep deprived. I sleep a lot, but I don't get enough quality sleep. Now I've noticed a pattern that in the past few days, I started to sleep around 8 to 9 hours consistently. Now I would like to know if it's better to wake up at the same time or go to bed at the same time. It's better to go to bed at the same time than it is to wake up at the same time, because if you go to bed at the same, you're naturally going to start waking up at the same time. But if your plan is to wake up at the same time and you don't pay attention to what time you go to bed, you're always going to get less sleep because you're always going to stay up later and later and later and get less sleep. So it's better to go to bed at the same time and let nature take its course, and you can start waking up at the exact same time you feel rested and recovered. Now, regarding your old mattress, I would suggest sleeping on the floor. Our bodies are not meant to sleep on the mattress. They're meant to sleep on the ground. So everybody with back problems says the same thing. I need a soft mattress because I have back problems. Well, here's the reality. You probably have back problems because you sleep on a soft mattress. Sleep on the floor and you're going to get better sleep, and you're going to have your body's going to feel a lot better because it's the natural way to sleep. Sleeping on a soft mattress is bad and dangerous for our bodies and for our health. So it's better to sleep on the floor. It's better to go to bed at exactly the same time and wake up when you feel rested. And if you're not getting enough sleep, try sleeping on your side rather than on your back. Because when you sleep on your back, it's very easy for the top of the throat to close, causing sleep apnea, causing you to wake up many times during the night without even noticing it, thus interrupting your REM sleep. Alex asks, what's the fastest way to build the strength and endurance to do 100 consecutive push-ups? Well, the fastest way to do that is to do push-ups every single day, all day, until you can do 100 consecutive push-ups. It's very simple. If you want to do 100 push-ups, start doing push-ups all the time until you can. The WC blog asks, you talk about socialism and communism being a cult. However, isn't capitalism the same context? We go to work to earn the hierarchy above you more money, a hierarchy which is conveniently shaped as a triangle with an individual point at the top. Yeah, capitalism is in the same context. It's not as dangerous to us as socialism or communism. Socialism and communism is the most dangerous for people. And that's what the people at the top of the pyramid want for us. But capitalism is much like we discussed in the Going Galt talk we had earlier, where they keep imposing more taxes and more fines and more rules on you so that eventually you just don't want anything to do with the system. That's what capitalism, the ultimate result of capitalism, is complete control by the inept powers at the top. So yes, capitalism is not the best, but it is better than communism. And in capitalism, yes, you do go to work to make the powers above you much more wealthy than you could imagine. Freedom Fighter asks, why are 95% of YouTube comments complete gibberish? Okay, that is because a great many YouTube commenters do not speak English as a first language. They speak English as a second, third, or fourth language, so they don't understand the language very well. Another reason is that many of the YouTube commenters are children. We always think that when we read something online, we think that a person just like us wrote it. But the reality is, many children comment on YouTube. And because we cannot see their picture or their face, we don't put two and two together. We think they're just like us when they're not. It could be that it's a foreign child in Dubai who barely speaks English well, leaving comments. Another reason is a lot of people who leave comments on YouTube are drunk or high. And then your fourth reason is that a lot of people who leave comments on YouTube are just plain stupid. Kevin asks, I've wasted a lot of time on dumb social media apps like Instagram and Facebook. What are your opinions on reducing or eliminating social media usage? Yeah, you should get rid of it immediately. It's very bad for you. It's bad for your mental, and it's bad for your physical. Sitting there all day, you get absorbed in this virtual reality, and everything people show you on social media is not real. It's only the best version of them that they want you to see. And because you see this virtual reality and you think, oh my God, these people are living such great lives, and here I am just staring at them, not doing anything, it makes you feel depressed and sad and all these kind of things without you even really understanding that it's doing it. It makes you feel inadequate, and then you want to go buy more shit. You want to go buy more stuff so you can fit in with the people on Facebook or Instagram. It's best to walk away from it, delete it and walk away from it and never go back. I deleted all my social media apps. B&D still uses Facebook, but I don't personally ever use Facebook. We just post the links on there and that's it. I don't use any social media whatsoever, and it's for the better. Roy asks, do you have a perspective on the subconscious mind and ways of reprogramming it for success? Yeah, I do. It's called Bold and Determined, and every piece that I've ever done is aimed at changing the way you program your mind. I don't use nerd words like programming the subconscious mind for success. I just tell you how to get after it. And everything that I tell you is designed to get you to get after it. Because our mind is the number one barrier to our own success. And we have to conquer our own mind to become successful. The only reason I want success is because I want freedom. I don't want to buy things. I don't want a motorcycle. I don't want a mansion. I don't want anything other than my freedom. And this is why I'm so adamant about you starting your own business and achieving success. It's not so you can buy stuff and be a better consumer, so you can have a boat in the driveway and a couple motorcycles and a nice new Corvette. I don't give a fuck about any of that. I want my freedom. And the way that you get your freedom is that you get your success. You make your money so that you never have to bow down to another person ever again. His second question is, are you still Wim Hofing? No, I'm not. I never force my breathing anymore. It's not good to force your breathing. I've changed my mind on the Wim Hof thing. The only reason you should ever force your breathing is if you're going to hold your breath for a long time via swimming underwater like Wim Hof does. If you're not going to do that, the only thing that hyperventilating and breathing all this extra oxygen does, this extra oxygen has nowhere to go. So it causes anxiety in you. You have to use this extra oxygen. Otherwise, it's completely pointless. So if you want to Wim Hof breathing and then swim under an iceberg for 3 minutes, go ahead. You'll need it. But if you want to do it to calm anxiety, it doesn't work. All this extra oxygen has to have somewhere to go. And if it doesn't have anywhere to go, there's no outlet for it. It causes anxiety in the body. So no, I don't do it. I don't force my breath at all. You'll notice that the only times you need extra breathing is when you just did something physically hard, like going for a run or going to lift weights or banging the misses. It's only these times you need extra breathing because your muscles need the extra oxygen. If your muscles don't need the extra oxygen, there's no reason to breathe the extra air. Damon asks, Vic, I know you don't use drugs, but do you drink alcohol? No, I do not. Alcohol is a poison in the same way that narcotics are. It's simply illegal poison, so people don't put two and two together. But it's very bad for you. There is nothing good about it whatsoever. And I don't even like the feeling of being tipsy or drunk. I hate the feeling. Every time I've had a drink in the past year and a half or so, I've had a few drinks and then I felt like I was being poisoned. And I thought, why am I drinking this? This is poison. It's absolute poison. So I feel much better without alcohol at all. No alcohol, never. Life is much better without it. Peter asks, you didn't answer the question about the biggest mistake you made. In my experience, when men refuse to answer that question, it is always has to do with sex, romance, and relationships. My question, did you wife up a non-optimal woman and or have kids and then get divorced from the aforementioned woman? No, I did not. I've never been married. And in fact, I've never even had a bad relationship. If we're being perfectly honest, I've had a lot of great relationships, a lot of very good ones, and I don't have any problems with any of my exes whatsoever. Now, I would suggest that you don't have as much experience with this question as you claim to, because asking other men what's the biggest mistake you've ever made is not very common. I've been asked that question one time in my life, so I would suggest that you don't have much experience with it and that you are projecting your biggest mistake onto all other men. Now, the reason I don't talk about my biggest mistake is that I don't dwell on mistakes. When you dwell on things like this, you give them power. I don't give these things power. I don't give myself mental poisoning by always dwelling on mistakes. I never, ever, 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 ever give mental power or mental poisoning to old mistakes. I don't live in the past. I let things be. I make a mistake, I learn from it, and I move forward. And that's it. And these people who, for example, go to therapy and always talk about problems in the past and mistakes in the past, it never makes them well. It always makes them worse. People who go to therapy don't get better. They get worse because they give themselves mental poisoning by dwelling on problems from the past. And that's one reason why you see rock singers all the time kill themselves. They're always addicted to drugs or alcohol because they sing these songs about problems from the past and they give themselves mental poisoning. I never allow mental poisoning whatsoever. So this is why I would never answer this question. Never, because I would never give it power in my mind. The mind is very susceptible to everything that is said, to everything that it sees, to everything that you say. It's very susceptible to mental poisoning, and you have to be alert to this and not answer questions of negativity or not dwell on negativity ever. So I would never answer this question. Drew asks, I was recently listening to an old podcast between you and Chris Good Looking Loser. You were talking about the girls being attractive in Bangkok. Are there any other attractive women that are not Asian? I've also heard that there are a lot of transgenders in those countries, but I don't really believe that unless I know it to be true. Any thoughts? Yeah. Bangkok is not countries. It is one country in Thailand. And are there transgenders in Bangkok? Yeah. There are a lot. All those rumors are absolutely true. It is the training capital of the world. He goes on to ask, what would be a good country to go to if I was not particularly attracted to Asian women? Well, I would probably try Ukraine, Russia, places like Serbia in East Europe, perhaps try Colombia and Brazil if you like the Latin flavor, which I don't. And those are the ones I've heard about. Other than Asian women, those are the tops. Nikhil asks, Vic, one of your 5-Star Fridays included a quote by Esther Vilar. I had no idea who that was, so I Googled her and found her body of work. I'm reading The Manipulated Man now, and it's blowing my mind. Frankly, I don't know what to think anymore. I was curious to hear your impressions of Esther Vilar's work. Okay, Esther Vilar wrote a book called The Manipulated Man back in 1971. In the book, she argues that contrary to common feminist and modern rights rhetoric, women in the industrialized cultures are not oppressed, but rather they exploit the established systems by manipulating men. She writes that men have been trained and conditioned by women, not unlike the way Pavlov conditioned his dogs into becoming their slaves. As compensation for their labors, men are given periodic use of a woman's vagina. The book contends that young boys are encouraged to associate their masculinity with their ability to be sexually intimate with a woman, and that a woman can control a man by socially empowering herself to be the gatekeeper to his sense of masculinity. Vilar states that this has been going on for some time. Yes, she is very extreme in her views, but she is absolutely correct, which is the main reason I've never been married. Marriage is slavery, friends, and I keep trying to tell you this, and I keep getting so curious as to why men are still getting married today. And when I see married men today, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but every married man I see today talks with the homosexual lisp. I don't know why. But it's every married man that I run into has a gay lisp. I don't know why. And every married man is basically a schlub today. See, a married man does become a slave for the wife. He goes to work all day to pay for her house and her cars, to help her keep up with the Joneses. And what does she give in return? What does a man get from marriage? Periodic use of her vagina? Most women cut that off after marriage. There's no benefit to a man becoming married today. It's a ruse. And it's been a ruse for a long time. It is a way for the woman to entrap you and extract from you. And we all can understand this today because we see our friends, our family members getting divorced and raped in the courts by getting everything taken from them, getting their children taken from them, their house taken from them, their 401k taken from them, their money taken from them. On top of that, they had to pay alimony and child support to the woman. For what? What does a woman offer you in a marriage? Her vagina? She offered that to you before marriage. Children? You can have children without being married. So what does she offer you? She doesn't offer you anything. She promises you one thing and then delivers another after marriage. Before marriage, it's going to be, oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be super. Yeah. After marriage, she's got you and she doesn't have to act anymore. She doesn't have to pretend anymore. So females are pretenders until they get married and then they show you their true selves. But I found a way around it. Don't ever get married. And they always have to be on their best behavior. Because they don't got you fully until you get married. After you get married, they've got you. And then they can act any way they want. But before marriage, they have to keep up appearances. So if you just never get married, you win. You're the winner of the game. And married men are the slaves of their wives. Which is why they always have to say, oh, I've got to ask the boss first. I've got to ask the boss if I could go play with my friends. Okay, married man, you do that. I will leave a link to the manipulated man in this article. Read it at your own peril. My friend and friends, read it only if you are ready to have your mind shattered. Women are not the precious angels we think they are. They are manipulators. And I accept this. I don't begrudge women over this. I just understand it and I accept it. This is the way that women have to be because they're not physically strong. They have to be manipulators to get what they want. They just have to be. She can't come right out and tell you what to do or tell you what she wants, because if she told you what she actually wanted, you might punch her in the eye. If you knew what goes on behind the eyes of a woman, you might punch her in the eye. So she must put on a mask. She must manipulate you. This is the way that females have to be. We don't have to be angry about it. We don't have to be men going their own way and run away from women, because the woman is the other half of the man. We are two halves. Men are not perfect and women are not perfect either. But if you want to protect yourself in this world, you must know the way the women are. The way that they truly are, not the way that they say they are. Because everything women say is usually a projection or the opposite of the truth. So, for example, if a woman accuses you out of nowhere of cheating on her, that means she's cheating on you. If she accuses you of not being able to commit, it means she doesn't commit. So everything she says that doesn't make sense is simply a projection or a manipulation designed to get you to bow down to her and be her slave. So it's not a war between the sexes. It's a game between the sexes. Who can be the master and who can be the manipulated? I choose to be the master, and the way that you can be the master is by never getting married. That's how you retain the power. If you want to give away your power, then go ahead and get married. Lenny asks, hello Vic, I'd like to ask, when is it appropriate to respond to violence with violence, and when is it wiser to walk away? Okay, you must respond to violence with violence, but you must not respond to words with violence. That's when it's not appropriate. It's always appropriate to walk away when dealing with words, because in our world, violence solves nothing. It only lands you in jail or prison. God forbid you accidentally kill the man, and then you could be in prison for 10 years. So it's always better to walk away. Always, always, always. However, if somebody is violent towards you, you have a duty to fight fire with fire and defend yourself and come out the winner. So it's always better to respond to violence with violence and harsh, extreme violence. But if you can avoid it, you should always avoid violence. You should never, 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 never be the aggressor in violence. But don't let somebody push you around. Don't let somebody hit you, for heaven's sake. Don't let somebody get within arm's reach of you if they seem violent. And if they do, take them out. RH asks, I noticed that the characters in the novel Shogun never laugh. How often do you laugh? When was the last time you laughed wholeheartedly? Does the life of a highly successful man, entrepreneur, lone wolf rob us of the opportunity to laugh wholeheartedly? It can rob us of the opportunity to laugh wholeheartedly. I used to laugh a lot more when I was broke. Now, these days, I don't laugh very much. I rarely laugh wholeheartedly. And one reason for this is that comedy today is not funny. Things are not funny today. I don't mean that in a sense that it's not funny, guys, you shouldn't laugh at this. I mean, literally, things just aren't funny today. Because comedy comes from truth. And people today are telling lies. People today are living a virtual reality where racism and sexism is the plague of the world. We've got to be politically correct about it. Political correctness is a lie. And if people follow political correctness, they are liars. Comedy comes from truth. If somebody has the inability to tell the truth because they're politically correct, they're not funny. And I went to see some comedy in Los Angeles at the comedy club. It was terrible. It wasn't funny. It was not funny in the slightest. Here is literally what every single comedian talked about. This is what they said. They said, I'm so tired of political correctness, right? Yeah, political correctness is bad. Yeah. And then they were going to say, God, it's so bad to be racist. I'm so tired of racist. So these retarded comedians would talk about how bad political correctness is. And then they would go on to do politically correct comedy. It wasn't funny. It's not funny. So there's no reason to laugh today. Nothing is funny. Nobody is funny anymore because humor comes from truth. And if truth is hidden or kept silent, what's funny? Nothing. And also, I would never laugh around somebody I didn't know. I would never laugh in the face of a stranger. I would only laugh with somebody who I'm very close with. Otherwise, I don't laugh. Simple as that. It's like you should never cry in front of somebody you don't know intimately. You should also never laugh in front of somebody you don't know intimately. At least that's what I do. I don't cry, but I also don't laugh in front of people I don't know. Naranta asks, hey Vic, if Trump is not going to help us, why don't we put Hillary? Well, really, it doesn't matter who the president is. It doesn't matter one bit. The same things keep happening, no matter if it's a right-wing or a left-wing president. The same agendas keep being pushed forward. The president of the United States makes no difference whatsoever. One is more easily controlled. That one is Hillary. Trump is not so easily controlled, but he is controlled. No question, he is controlled. So Trump is not the leader of this country. That's a ruse. He's the front man, but he's not the powers that be. EA asks, after 2 years since the big day, what is your opinion on President Trump? I'd seriously love an extended answer. Trump is controlled. That's it. He's controlled. Like all presidents since, good golly, Abraham Lincoln. If a president is not assassinated, he is controlled. So we have JFK and we have Abraham Lincoln. Since then, all have been controlled. And that includes our precious president, Donald Trump. Peter asks, hi Vic, I'm training with body weight for a year now. I decided to start lifting weights. Could you outline the basics for beginners for me, please? Yeah. For beginners, you got 5 important exercises. Squats, deadlifts, bench press, pull-ups, overhead press. Those are your 5. Concentrate on those 5 exercises 3 times a week for the next 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks and get strong on those. Those are the main exercises that are going to work the most muscles in your body, and that's what's going to ease you into bodybuilding. You don't want to start with doing curls and doing triceps extensions. You want to start with the main ones, the ones that build your strength and your tendon strength, your ligament strength, as well as your muscular strength. And again, those are squats, deadlifts, bench press, pull-ups, and overhead press. Start with those and go from there. Damon asks, there are many so-called ways to make money online. Are there any you suggest staying away from? Yes, stay away from pornography. Pornography kills the soul. Whether you are the seller or the consumer, you will have no soul if you deal in pornography. The absolute worst of the online business, pornography. Brennan asks, Uncle V, I've been training calisthenics/street workout for a little over 2 years now, and my palms and knuckles are becoming awfully beat up. Do you recommend wearing gloves when training, or are they for pussies? Yeah, go ahead and wear gloves, especially if you're training outside on the street and the gravel is digging into your palms. Yeah, go ahead and wear gloves. Brad asks, is red growth safe for an 18-year-old to use? Also, can you gain strength on the keto diet if you're not a newbie? Okay, red growth is safe for an 18-year-old to use if you follow it up with a post-psychotherapy of red PCT 2.0. Should be fine in the long term. Can you gain strength on the keto diet if you're not a newbie? Absolutely. Absolutely. Jesus Sotelo asks, what are your thoughts on building credit? Is having credit useful and or necessary? I ask because I'm not a fan of owing money, but I'm told that credit is the end-all be-all if you want to do anything, and I'm looking for outside perspective. It's a great question, and the answer is, what would you need credit for? You would need credit to go into debt. What is debt? Debt is slavery. So the need to build credit is the need to become a better slave. The better credit you have, the better you are at paying off your debts. the better you are at making the bankers rich. So what need do you have of credit if you don't plan to go into debt? You have no need for credit. I live without credit. I have no need for it because I will never go into debt. Credit is cleverly disguised as debt. It's your ability to be a good little slave and pay it off. So for a smart young man, credit is not just unnecessary, it is detrimental to your success. Because credit teaches you to not have self-responsibility and self-reliability. It teaches you not to pay cash for the things you own, but to buy them on credit. For what? So you can become a debt slave. It's how you can be controlled. You will always have a noose, a weight around your neck if you are in debt. How do you go in debt? By having good credit. So don't worry about credit. Don't ever use credit because it's a ruse to get you into debt, and debt is slavery. John Doe asks, will the steak and eggs diet help to get rid of gyno? Yeah, it will. It's not going to completely cure it, but it will help tremendously because it's the carbohydrates that are estrogenizing your body. And if you stay away from the carbs, it's going to go down. It's not going to completely cure itself, but it will help tremendously. Capo asks, Vic, what is your alternative to an alarm clock? Is it simply changing your sleep schedule like the article recommends so we eventually wake up without a clock? That's absolutely correct. If you want to sleep without an alarm clock and wake up at the same time every day, you simply go to sleep at the same time every night, and then you will start to wake up naturally at the exact same time every day. I can wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning with no alarm clock. It is pitch black when I wake up, completely pitch black. I keep the room where I sleep pitch black, and it's pitch black outside when I wake up, and I just wake up and it's 5 o'clock. No alarm clock. I never use an alarm clock. The worst sound in the world is the sound of an alarm clock going eek, 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 eek in the morning, waking you up like a shotgun blast to your dome. So I don't use an alarm clock. I just simply go to bed at the exact same time every night, and then I wake up naturally. Marcus asks, hello, Mr. Pride. I'm a 44-year-old from Germany and would like to have your opinion. Germany is getting flushed down the toilet, as you already know, and my wife and I are playing with the thought of leaving Germany for good. The thing is, as one gets older, one also becomes more of a coward, at least in my case. What would you recommend? Where should we go? And how can we prosper financially? Savings are tight due to an expensive divorce from my first spouse. I know. Okay, friend, the problem is that every Western country is being ruined. It is not just Germany. It is everywhere. So, more important than leaving, which is not such a crazy thing to want to do because our countries are being ruined and we want to go somewhere else where the countries are not ruined. But there's not going to be anywhere else because the same things keep happening. We have to not be politically correct anymore. And it's as simple as that. If we want our countries back, our countries are ours. They are not for other people. They are ours. And if we want to stop giving our countries away, we have to stop being politically correct. Political correctness is a chain on our necks, giving our countries away, giving our birthright away, giving our culture away, giving the product of our labor away. We must stop doing it. There is going to be nowhere to go if we don't fight this mental war of political correctness. We will have nowhere to go. The thing you must do is stop being politically correct at all costs, because it is costing us everything. Everything is being taken away from us. And the more we give in to political correctness, more is taken. Don't let them take from you anymore. Donald J. Pump asks, Victor, you seem like a very self-assured and confident man. You don't give a rat's ass about what anyone says, thinks, or writes about you, your company, or your opinions. How can I develop an unapologetic mindset like yours? Well, that's a great question, Donald J. Pump. How to develop an unapologetic mindset. What do you say we cover that in the next episode of the Bold and Determined podcast? Until that time, friends, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to iTunes and I want you to leave a 5-star review for the Bold and Determined podcast so that other people can find this podcast and they can break free from the prison in their minds so that they, like you, can develop an unapologetic mindset of a winner and stop being a little coward, a little weakling, a little pussy who lets everything be taken from him. So go ahead and leave a 5-star review on iTunes. And until then, my friends, have yourself a nice day.